In the modern day, game engines are insanely powerful to the point where we can render these huge photorealistic environments with millions of polygons. But even though we've had these huge improvements to 3D graphics, we still haven't figured out how to render pixel art. This is a game running at a resolution of 640 by 360, which is a pretty common resolution for these pixel art style games. To view this properly on modern monitors, it needs to be upscaled. Otherwise, the game window is absolutely tiny, and unless your face is about 2 centimeters away from the screen, it's completely unplayable. It turns out that there's actually two ways to do this. We can either render the game at the target resolution, which in this case is 640 by 360, and then upscale the image so that it fits the monitor's resolution. And this is typically the approach that's recommended for pixel art games. Or alternatively, you can just directly render the game at the monitor's resolution. If we do it the first way, we get to keep the low-res retro style, and when I move the mouse you can see that the gun starts to pixelate. At such a low resolution, there's not enough pixels for it to rotate smoothly. The only issue with this approach though is that when we try to render UI elements, such as text and buttons, they will also appear pixelated and hard to read. It's not too bad at this resolution, but if you go any lower, the text starts to become just completely unreadable. Another issue is with the camera. You can see that if I move the camera around, it can only snap to that 640 by 360 grid, so we get very sharp, snappy movements which don't look great. You can also see some jittering on the target dummies, where they appear to move a bit as well when I move the camera. If we render the game the second way though, you can see that the game is way more HD. All those camera issues are gone, and our text is a lot more crisp. All of the pixels are rotating smoothly, as they're not locked to such a low resolution, but we lose a lot of that retro look and feel of the first approach. So what I want is a mix between the two, and it turns out that this is actually a really big issue. I found a discussion talking about this issue on the Godot Game Engine repository, and after reading an unreasonable number of the comments, it seems like the consensus was that if you wanted to have a low-resolution pixel art game with high-resolution UI elements, you had to have two viewports, one that you render at your lower resolution and one that you render at your screen resolution. All of the game content gets rendered on the smaller viewport, and all of the UI gets rendered on the larger one. This will work for the UI, but it still doesn't fix the issue with the camera. Upon reading even more comments, it seems like to this day, there still isn't a clean solution to this issue. Some people proposed some solutions, but they seemed way too over-engineered and convoluted for my liking. So even though we now have Nanite and Unreal Engine, we still haven't found a way to make smooth cameras in pixel art games.